If you haven't watched my review of The Ending of the End yet, I would suggest to watch that one first. I thought it would make more sense to discuss the final problem in a separate video, as it is rather detached from The Ending of the End, which I would consider the actual series finale, while this is more of an epilogue. And with that being said, let's begin. So, we are in the future now. Twi'lek grew up to look more like Celestia, cause that is apparently how fully grown alicorns look like. I wonder if Kanan's got a floating mane like that at some point too. Spike arrives still acting as Twi'lek's Hand of the Queen. And Friendship Ambassador. Apparently he was in charge for the negotiations between the Diamond Dogs and the Abyssinians. Maybe you aren't aware of it, but Abyssinia is the name of the kingdom Kappa originated from in the comics. So in case you didn't get the joke, he negotiated peace between cats and dogs. And I think that deserves some applause. Well, and then we get introduced to Twi'lek's pupil, who doesn't value friendship as much as she should. Luster Dawn. Okay, let's get one thing right out of the way. Luster Dawn. Really? Another name that is basically synonymous with Twilight Sparkle. It wasn't that clever when you did it with Sunset Shimmer, and it's not that clever now. Though, fun fact, maybe you missed it, but they included Sunset Shimmer in this episode during the song sequence. I think Twilight could have at least invited her to the coronation as well, but hey, at least they finally acknowledged her existence in the show. So everyone can now stop pretending that Equestria Gods isn't canon. Anyway, I think the basic premise of this episode immediately falls apart, since it relies on Luster Dawn telling the princess of friendship that she thinks that friendship is a waste of time.
I was hoping to set up an independent course of study. I want to accomplish as much as you have someday.
It'll be hard to do that without friends.
I'm not so sure. Friendship looks like more of a distraction than anything else, and ultimately, a waste of time.
What?
I know you and your friends accomplished a lot together, but that was so long ago, and as far as I can see, you rule by yourself now.
How can one pony be that ignorant? In particular since they later spell out that they still meet up once a moon or month or whatever and form the Council of Friendship, which by all accounts should be common knowledge. Luster. It's like the one person that always talks about politics without looking up how any of it works. I get it, she's supposed to mirror Twilight in the beginning of the series, but I think they are overdoing it. If Twilight would have been so open about her disregard for friendship, I'm pretty sure I would have stopped watching the series midway throughout the first episode. One thing that sorta helped in that regard though is that Twilight really had other things on her mind. She just discovered the whole Nightmare Moon thing, which really seemed like a more urgent matter than her social status, since she obviously couldn't know that the fate of the world literally depended on her making some friends. So we can at least see where Twilight is coming from in episode 1. But then there's of course that Luster admits that Twilight and her friends accomplished a lot together, but then says that it was a long time ago. You know, that doesn't make any of these accomplishments any less meaningful. Well, to prove that friendship actually lasts, Twilight tells Luster the story of her coronation and how she was Twilighting hard because she had to leave Ponyville. And again, I'm not a particular big fan of that storyline either. I already talked about that in my Last Crusade review, but I really don't like how the show treats a friend moving away like the end of the world. I know it's like the number one reason for ponies to turn evil in this world, but as long as you keep in touch, it is not that much of a problem. In particular, since the plan was the entire time that Twilight and her friends rule together. So they are kinda forced to keep in touch on a regular basis anyway, so the possibility of them not talking with each other for whatever reason is basically zero. Sure, they might meet up less than they used to, but really I think they blow it way out of proportions. Not to mention that Rarity visits her boutique in Canterlot on a regular basis, and Pinkie even points out that she will work there a lot more from now on. And Twilight can teleport, and the show really gives the impression that Canterlot and Ponyville aren't really that far apart. Really, the problem will be your new work schedule, not your residence, Twilight. But to this episode's credits, it finally tackles this particular can of worms in its lesson. Distance doesn't really matter and friendship can withstand the test of time. It's not always easy and might require some work, but as long as you care, friendship can survive everything. And I do think it's rather heartwarming to see that they are all indeed still friends after all these years. This lesson of course also applies to the show itself. Ever since they announced that the show will end after season 9, there have been quite a few people panicking that the fandom will die. But no, as long as people care and still show their love for the show, this ain't happening. We might get no new content, but we can still talk about the show, create fan work, and so on. on. They are still active fandoms for shows that ended years ago. This is perhaps best illustrated with the memory book Twilight gets from her friends. We can always look back at the good times we had with the show, rewatch the parts we liked, and continue going forward anyway. So don't worry too much. I think this is what the episode was really going for. Twilight is like the fan who freaks out because the show is ending, fearing that they will lose something important to them, but learns to accept that it won't truly go away. And besides that, frankly I would have preferred if the coronation didn't end up in a total disaster, since it wasn't particularly funny to me, but it's just my opinion. Maybe you thought it was hilarious. Also, Kappa is there. Anyway, as you can see, I wasn't a particular fan of the storyline in this episode, and as far as I'm concerned, I would have been okay with the show ending with Twilight eating donuts with her friends at the end of the ending of the end. But I do think that for some who have a hard time to let go, this might be exactly the episode they need. It provides some extra closure and offers a pretty good lesson to boot. Well, and besides that, this episode is really just a show of where every pony ended up. Having Pinkie Pie and Cheese Sandwich hooking up is a bit obvious, but I'm okay with it. The only thing that bothers me about that is that they didn't bother to establish that they might be interested in a romantic relationship beforehand. Like, you brought back Cheese Sandwich this season for an episode, Pinkie Pie helps him to overcome a personal problem, and the episode doesn't include any noteworthy shipties. A bit of a missed opportunity right there. Rarity now opened up boutiques for non-ponies, and I suppose that's the reason why she mentioned Yakistan. I really wonder how that turned out. Well, AJ is seemingly now wearing Granny Smith's neckerchief, probably as a memento, as she most likely died in the meantime, and furthermore this.
Maybe we could get to places on time if you let me do some of the chores instead of always doing everything yourself.
Maybe I would if you did them the right way. Oh, sorry. We're not the last ones, are we?
I mean, I could be wrong there, but that sounds like an implication that AJ and Adi live together now. Did they actually hook up? At least I think this is what they are trying to tell us. Kinda weird after Equestria Girls put so much effort into shipping Rary Jack. Well, and I'm a bit on the fence if they also imply that Fluttershy married Discord. Otherwise, him dropping her off at the meeting seems kinda pointless. Maybe Angel wasn't joking after all.
Fluttershy! Oh, yeah, that's me. Definitely Fluttershy, 100%. Okay, see how shy I am? I talk to animals, I want to marry Discord.
Your list is over there.
Yes, I just wanted an excuse to play that clip. What does bother me a little bit about the entire thing is that everyone visually aged, except for Twilight, who only got taller. So it seems like she's immortal after all, or at least ages very slowly compared to her friends. Back when Twilight became an alicorn, it was a pretty big concern for many that Twilight will eventually outlive her friends and has to live without them. Megan McCarthy back in the day claimed on Twitter that Twilight wouldn't outlive her friends, which looking at this episode seems to be untrue unless she dies due to other circumstances. Which again goes to show you that you always have to take everything the show staff says with a grain of salt. The writing team of MLP changed a lot since season 3, and MLP was never really written with a clear roadmap in mind. But yeah, this is kinda sad to think about, especially after this episode makes it very apparent that Twilight already has trouble dealing with the fact of living in a different city than they do. Seeing the ones around you grow old and die while you stay the same is not good for your mental health. Anyways, it seems to become teachers at the School of Friendship, which was kinda to be expected at this point, and it suits them rather well. I'm a bit disappointed that they just set it for Celis, Smolder and Silverstream to be working at the school as well. I think it works well enough for Celis, but I think they could have put a bit more focus into Smolder's and Silverstream's future, especially after it was established in Uprooted that Silverstream dreams about becoming a Wonderboard. I think it would have been rather nice to see her dream come true and see a more diverse group of Wonderboards. Yona is now running Rarity's boutique in Ponyville apparently, which is a rather nice follow-up to She's All Yak. And it seems like she's living now together with Sandbar as well. I'm still surprised that they actually went with that ship, but it's kinda cute. And if the windows in Canterlot Castle are anything to go by, the Young Six at some point defeated some red rhino thing or something like that. I wonder if the comics will cover that at some point. I'm a bit disappointed that it isn't a bull, because, you know, Last Unicorn reference. Also, there's a window dedicated to grown-up Flurry art. But it is kinda generic and doesn't tell us anything about her, and I would have liked to see her as an adult and her parents as well. And Sunburst really tries to imitate Starthrill. Now I could go on talking about every individual character that got a cameo and what I think of their future and stuff, but that would take way too long. I do kinda like Silverspoon's grown up design though. Then the episode ends with Twilight dumping a student in Ponyville to get some friends like Celestia did all these years ago, and the book closes, and I'm really happy that they remembered to include that small detail. The series started with the book opening, so it would have felt wrong if it didn't end with it closing. Let's wrap things up. The Last Problem is an okay episode. Again, I think the story is kinda meh overall, and we are just here to see what happened to the characters we watched for all these years. If this was all we got, I would consider it an utter disappointment, but as an epilogue chapter after the big blowout in the ending of the end, it works pretty well, and I think it does teach exactly the right lesson for the final episode of My Little Pony: Friendship is Magic, even if it does so in a somewhat clumsy manner. So overall, I think My Little Pony managed to end on a high note. The ending of the end had a spectacle and great conflict, while The Last Problem provided some closure and makes it easier for people to let go. It certainly is the most fulfilling series finale I watched this year. Looking at you, Game of Thrones and Star Wars is... And now one final question remains. What will I do in the future? After all, I'm mostly known as the Fox guy who talks about ponies. Well, I already started to talk about other shows, most notable DuckTales and 101 Dalmatian Street, so basically I will just talk about other cartoons that I like. I may occasionally want to revisit the show and talk about some episodes I haven't reviewed yet. And there are still a couple of other Brony reviewers I want to collab with. There's also the comic series, and I might tackle some of those as well, especially since they will release season 10. In comic form next year. So yeah, I hope you guys stick around even if I end up talking more about other shows in the future. But what about you? Did you like this episode? Anything that bothered you? Do you think MLP ended well? Let me know in the comments below. I am Tricky Fox. Stay foxy.